I'm going to be doing my commemorative speech today, and this is my audience. That's Chico, it's Harper, and Damien. Alright, thank you for coming out today. We're here to celebrate and remember the life of my grandma, Grandma Gussie. Some of you might know her, and some of you have never met her. This is my grandma when she was my age, about 21. Her name was Marilyn Sieke Hoyt, and she was my grandmother. I loved her, and I called her Grandma Gussie. She was born on April 7th, 1923, in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, to Gus and Marion Sieke. She died on December 17, 2001, at the age of 79. I was only 11 at the time, but I'll never forget her. Grandma Gussie grew up in Cedar Rapids and lived there most of her life. She graduated from Franklin High School, which was actually my middle school. Currently is a middle school. After high school, she went to University of Iowa, where she graduated with a degree in home economics. She was a member of Delta Gamma sorority, and at Iowa University is actually how she got her nickname, Gussie. It's a pretty long story. I'm not really going to go into that. She actually met her husband at University of Iowa too, Joseph Hoyt, in 1943. They got married 2 years later on October 1st, 1945, when he was home from the Air Force. They were married 48 years until his death in 1983. They had 4 children and 9 grandchildren. Those are some details of her life, but not the story of the person that I knew and loved. You see, Grandma Gussie, the Grandma Gussie I knew, was all about hugs and kisses, no matter what the situation. It was always the very first and very last thing she did whenever you saw her, no matter what. Family, friends, and strangers always got a hug and kiss. And for the grandchildren, it was always, I love you afterwards. I asked her one time why she always hugged and kissed everyone, and she said it was because her parents never did, and she didn't like that. So she was going to make sure that she didn't grow up that way, and we didn't. Another great memory of my Grandma Gussie is that she absolutely loved Christmas. Christmas was always spent at her house. Christmas morning, we'd get there, all my cousins and the families would be there, and there'd be presents piled high behind the Christmas tree, and the stockings would be stuffed. The tree was decorated with lights and decorations that we had made over the years as a family. But mainly it was for family time. We shared presents, good food, and a lot of fun, mainly because of her. She brought us all together on Christmas Day. And after she passed away, we don't ever really do Christmas together anymore, which is kind of sad that she was the tie for all that. Another favorite memory of my grandma is when I see her sitting in her chair on the porch at Lake Okoboji. She spent every summer there at the cottage, and we'd go there and visit her during the weekends, and that's where she would be when we get there almost every time, sitting, rocking in her chair. Even 10 years after her death, we still claim that she sits there. Sounds a little chilly and a little spooky, but we know that she means no harm and that she's just kind of watching over us. Grandma Gussie loved the lake. She actually couldn't swim. She never learned how to swim, so she made all the grandchildren always do a swim test in the beginning of the summer, which was just from our dock to our next door neighbor's dock. Wasn't that hard of a test, but it let her know and let her feel comfortable with us being out there alone. Our friends actually had to do it too, which was kind of embarrassing. Everyone had to wear life jackets until they passed the swim test for my grandma. In the winter, we'd go see her in Florida for spring break, and just whenever we got time. I have great memories down there spending time with her. For one thing, she always had homemade key lime pie, and to this day I can't eat a piece of key lime pie without thinking of my grandma. She would actually take us fishing out on the boat and in the intercoastal that was right by the house. We'd catch crab, rays, and pretty much anything else you could think of, even garbage sometimes. And she would take us to the beach and feed the birds, and we'd have to save up old bread ourselves, or else she wouldn't take us down there and feed them the new bread that she Me and my grandma had a really close relationship when I was younger, mainly because I loved listening to the old stories that she told about Grandpa, because I never met him, about the war and just old times. It's always fun to listen about the history and learn about the past and stuff. The best times were in September to January because she lived in Cedar Rapids and she was just a couple streets up the hill from us, so I could go there every day after school and just sit there and listen to her, really. And we sat and watched Jeopardy and The Price is Right together, and it was kind of weird. I was a little too young to be watching those shows, but I did just to make her happy. That's what she liked to do. So she was always there to watch me bike and skate and swim and play soccer, no matter what the weather. She was kind of a trooper. I remember one game, it was like 20 degrees out and it was snowing, and I saw my grandma was the only one on the sideline in the chair in her big coat and an umbrella and her earmuffs and everything, so that was kind of funny to watch. Here's a current picture of her right before she passed away. I was 11 at the time, and that's the end of my story. And here's the audience again. Here's my audience again. And thank you for listening.